Good morning, I'm Bob. I'm an alcoholic. I've done this work as it's laid out in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with the help of a Big Book Step Study sponsor, an ever merciful God, and I've made most of my amends. I was slacking with my financial amends, and I actually set up a debit card automatic pay. It takes $10 out every week. So I've caught up on that. I've got a couple of face-to-face, a couple of biggies to still make, one that I've been putting off that I have to get to. But other than that, I work all the steps to the best of my ability, best that I can. Just wanted to thank Mike for asking me to speak today. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to do this. I was on the drive down this morning. I was thinking that I am fortunate that I'm able to speak in front of a group of people like this, that I have the capabilities, the mental faculties to still be able to do this. I'm just going to briefly run through my history with alcohol and how I came to Big Book Step Study. The other night, just the other night, it was on the fear section, and I was thinking back, my earliest memories of fear. I was a small child, just full of low self-esteem, feelings of inadequacy, the fear of people's opinion and judgment, criticism. Those are my earliest memories, actually in kindergarten, being so scared the first day, any type of, first social involvement, with other children, hiding in the coat closet, not going out, and that would be my pattern. I at a young age, I remember just feelings of melancholy and sadness. I think back, why would a 5-year-old just be so engulfed in morbid reflection? And I really feel like as I grew older that I was just a setup. I was a sucker for that first drink. I believe I was an alcoholic from the beginning. I think I was an alcoholic that just hadn't taken a drink yet. It just hadn't drank. And immediately, from the first moment, I drank uncontrollably. First time I drank. And from the very beginning, I enjoyed drinking alone, total isolation. I remember a young guy, 14, 15 years old. Anyone could buy back then. The drinking age was 18. I'd go to the package store on my bicycle and buy booze and go out and sit in the woods by myself, and started smoking pot, by myself, just total isolation. I mean, there were good times, there was, partying and stuff, but I paid the consequences very early. Car crashes, arrests, lost a job. Every job that came along, I lost. Turned my back on my family at an early age. My education, gave up on my education, flunked out of college, and was living in a nightmare of blackouts and car crashes and arrests. And fortunately, I came into the halls at an early age, at 21 years old, and took right to it. And this was north of Boston. A lot of young people at the time, great fellowship and camaraderie, and I stayed sober a few years. There was no Big Book at the time. We didn't go to any of the step meetings. It was really a social scene of the big speaker meetings. And like I said, I stayed sober a few years, moved back to my hometown, and didn't connect with AA out that way, out in Western Mass. Went to a few meetings, but started hanging around with my old friends, and a good bunch of guys, but it led back to drinking. And I went out for had a 23-year relapse, and I got, in that time, I got married, had a child, but I reverted to total isolation. I didn't deal with the real world whatsoever. I lived on a campground in Lunenburg. I took care of the campground, and I wouldn't go out in any type of social situation. The only things I would do would go out and go grocery shopping, because that was a necessity, and I would go to all my son's school functions, all the sporting events, and theater and things like that. But I'd stay far away from any of the other parents or teachers. I didn't want anything to do with other people. And that's when I look at my fear list now. Number one is people, and number two is talking to people. And it got as bad where I was literally wearing rags. I wouldn't go out and buy clothes. My hair was down to the middle of my back. I would just chop it off once in a while with scissors. And I tell myself that, the women that cut the hair, they never do a good job. They don't know how to do it. And the real reason was they'd start a conversation. They'd ask me tough questions like, how are you today? Or, how the Patriots look this year, and I couldn't handle that. I really, but I managed. I stopped drinking on my own with no program for 8 years. Then had again in total isolation, and had just some type of mental meltdown over something that wasn't that big a deal, wasn't that big a problem to handle, and. I was throwing on a lot of psych meds and some benzos, and really just came back to the halls frazzled. I don't remember even looking up the first meeting that I got back to. Just found myself there in real tough shape. I'd stopped the benzos cold turkey and then the psych meds, so I was really shattered. I was a crushed soul, and I couldn't speak to anybody. It was, but I just felt something there, just to attend, and something was pulling me back. And then someone reached out to me, my first sponsor, and then regular AA sponsor, and then just the very next night, I'd been going to meetings just a few weeks, and a man reached out to me at a meeting in Fitchburg. He circled the meetings on a meeting list that he went to, and said we could meet up. And I said, well, that's good. I go to a meeting with somebody. And the very first one was the next night was the Tuesday night Big Book Step Study in Leominster, and I was, in bed. I was, like I said, I was shattered. I couldn't speak, and I was very scared. But I heard something there that night. I heard a couple of things. I don't know if they were on the fear section of this step, but I heard people talking about fear, which I knew very well. I also heard people talking about God. And I had returned to church, and that was one thing that was, helping me at the time. And there was something there, as much as I hated being there, and there was something there that the people had that just kept me coming back to it. And it took me a while. I kept going to the meetings, the Big Book Step Study, and also the one Thursday night in Bolton. And again, I felt less than everyone else, that I didn't deserve to be there. But finally, it was really, I got the gift of desperation, where I was considering taking my life every day. And I finally asked a man to be my sponsor, to take me through this. And he said he would, and it was I remember the feeling. It was just a complete feeling of relief and comfort and a feeling of hope. And we got right to work on it. Through the reading, went through the reading very, fairly quickly, and got right to the writing. And that was the point. We got together, said my third step prayer at the Methodist Church, where they have the Tuesday night Leominster meeting. Said that my third step prayer at the altar at that church. Actually, I have the questions that was asked at the time. Do you believe that you're an alcoholic? Do you believe that no power on earth can keep you sober, and that God could and would? And when you complete this work, will you help others with this work? And have you thought seriously before taking this step? And you are making a commitment to God and yourself? And we said the third step prayer. I said yes to all those things. I wasn't sure because I had never completed anything in my life. And it was a matter of I'm here today doing this. It's the best I can do right now, and hopefully I can accomplish this. And at that point, what it says, I got a vigorous course of action, and we got to this section, resentments. And Bill Wilson doesn't mince any words. We said, it's the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. And this business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal. And we began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. In that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill. So this was very important work to start going on, but I had no idea where to start with the list. I needed someone to help me. I needed my sponsor to give me instructions. He showed me his writing, so I wasn't sure what resentments were. And it was very simple things like, looking in our past, and it could be anything. What someone said to us one day, being picked on in school, someone making, they seemed trivial, but they were still, they were in my mind, and I said, that's the kind of stuff, so then it started pouring out. I started writing the list, and I found the writing very therapeutic. So I kept it in my car. I enjoyed writing before meeting. I was early to meetings. I do some writing. Just being in the presence of a church seemed to help, bring the power of God into it. And I was able, I finished the list, and it was a continual type of thing. I always kept a piece of paper in my pocket to write them down. It'd pop in my head at any time, and I knew there was going to be more as time went on. So I wanted to get going on the writing, and we listed out, the next part was listing out, writing it down, I'm resentful at, and then the next part, the cause, and then affects my, self-esteem, pocketbook, emotional security, and the others. And my writing evolved over, as I did it, everything became bracketed in fear by the end. I could really see where fear was the basis, really the motivator of my character defects and everything I was seeing as I wrote. And then really came, the turnarounds were really where I saw I blamed others always, through my drinking. Everything was always someone else's fault, and that's where I saw where my part in things, and it's not repetitious, but I could see a pattern, from each section, and I did bring my writing. Usually I didn't think I'd ever say that I'd rather not, know what I'm going to speak on, but I found that to be helpful. It's just I've been coming to this meeting weekly, so I knew which step I'd be speaking on today. But I got some good advice on that, where, if you're thinking about it all week and the night before, there may be, someone told me, there may be a dozen or so, just, it's a random number, good points to make on any certain step. And if you make a few, if you bring up a few of them, then it's the people that are sharing in the audience, it's their job to, fill in the rest of it. So it takes a little bit of pressure off to, do a perfect job up here speaking. And I did bring some of my work on some of the, I still do inventory, and I have a constant list of of the resentments I'm writing on. Some people don't do that. I speak to people. Some people don't do it that way. I have a couple current ones. I'd written one out on my sponsor lately. This poor guy. I tortured him for several years, and this past summer, I had some things going on in life, and I just felt, I wrote it out, and I put his name, and the cause being that he ended our the sponsor relationship. And it affects everything bracketed: fear, self-esteem, pride, personal relations, ambition, emotional security. When I wrote it out, again, the patterns I see, under selfish, it's always, I want things my way. That's always a recurring thing. And I want others to meet my needs. I'm too concerned about my needs. I'm only concerned about me. I'm not seeing others' problems or needs. And in the dishonesty is another one that would always come up. So that I'm not seeing or admitting where I am at fault. I expect others to be what they are not. I blame others for my problems. And under the self-seeking, this is really where I saw her in this particular resentment. As the bells went off, I was ignoring others' needs. I held a resentment. I had self-pity. This is where it just came to me. I want someone else to give me the answers and solve my problems. And so that was, something that was shown to me by doing, the writing. And under fearful and where I'm afraid, the same, it pops up pretty frequently. I'm fearful of other people's opinions, judgments, and criticisms, of loneliness, of failing, of feeling less than on others, of not getting what I want, and not losing what I have, and not being liked or respected. And I also underlined being abandoned. And all he had done was tell me to stop calling him at work every day. Says, pestering me. That always happened. And I got into this thing that he abandoned me in my time of need. How could he do this to me? And I call him frequently still. He's always there. He's always been there. Always points me through a difficult time. He pushed me. He pointed out the amends. Keep going on your amends. That's where he would always push me back to, and always something in the big book. Any questions I have, and it always, I see it, pray on it, and see things in the reading. And another recent one where I really saw, something's revealed to me. It's actually an attorney I'm working with, and he's actually in Big Book. He's not here, so I can. But the cause I put resentful at, and the cause that he makes me feel less than. Affects my self-esteem, pride, pocketbook especially, ambition, emotional security, everything bracketed in fear. And this was another time when, again, for selfish, I won't read them all off, but I want things my way. I want others to meet my needs. And again, with dishonest, I'm not seeing or admitting where I'm at fault. And this one here, under self-seeking, I have self-pity, and I want to control others. I want validation as a person. And again, under afraid, I always say I'm afraid of other people's opinions, judgments, and criticisms. But this one here, also my inferiority and inadequacy. But this one jumped out at me. Again, it came out of nowhere, of being exposed. This one really hit me. Of being exposed, of being found out, of someone finding out the truth about me. A lot of it's lies that I tell myself, but the people will find out the truth, and I won't gain their respect, their friendship. They won't like me. And so what I got out of that, I went off on a tangent after doing this one. I did some writing, but I came up with I am a person of value and dignity, no better than, and most importantly, no less than anyone else. So again, it's just an example with writing where I go back and do this, and I have another list, a current list, where I go back and it's just very beneficial to keep at it for me. I know some people don't do an inventory later on. And I've also seen reevaluating the self-seeking portion. A woman was speaking the other night at the Big Book in Leominster, and saying how she looks over when any other addiction we have, or obsessive behavior, for me it's overeating, or it could be gambling, or sex, or whatever, and for me it's overeating, and to examine when that crops up, what is the resentment that could be the basis of that. And also, again, when we were speaking on fear the other night, what is the fear that could be bringing up the self-seeking behavior, as far as going, being in self-will again, that brings us back to, brings myself back to being blocked, from God, through resentment, fear, self-pity, anger. It's really the usual culprits. For me, when negative feelings like that, I know when I'm in self-will, when I'm miserable, when I'm running, when all those things are blocking me. When I'm in God's will, I'm happy, and content. And these meetings are, one way that I'll get back into, doing God's will. And it came to me one time during the writing, thanking God, praising God, being grateful to God, and trusting in God. I'll have moments, where you're recognizing, having the awareness, when my character defects are creeping in. And again, the writing helps tremendously, writing inventory. And just going to finish up with, if anyone's new, considering this work, don't be intimidated by the group conscience. That was one resentment I never had, was not being able to speak in these meetings. That was perfect for me. I didn't want to interact at that point. And it was, when I came in, it was inconceivable that I could sit up here and speak at these meetings. That was a big hurdle for me, a huge fear. And so if people are writing, again, keep writing. I had a conflict during this. I also spoke, extensively with my sponsor about that. If we're supposed to stay in the day and stay in the present moment, and why are we dragging up the past? Why are we doing this? And the best answer we got is to trust in the process, trust that it will, work out, and keep writing. I got sick of hearing it, keep writing all the time from a couple of friends. But it did work, it was all worth it. It's very beneficial. And I want to thank you for having me today.